Math rocks. I mean, I've said it. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Every Edition, the Tabletop RPG Talk Show. I'm John.
I'm Jesse.
And today we're going to loot the body and take a look at Mothership.
You've been talking about this for a couple episodes now, just like peppering it in there every now and then, and I'm interested to hear
It's going to be a good one.
In today's random encounter, we're going to look at 4 different sci-fi starter sets and what you get, and the pros and cons, and sort of dig into them.
It's an all sci-fi episode today.
Yeah. Okay.
And of course, we're going to do a morale check and check in with the tabletop role-playing game industry and see what's going on and what's new. But first, Jesse, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. This year has been a very productive year so far in terms of world building. I've now suckered another group of mine into my homebrew world, and I'm like, I've got a foot in the door for another group as well, but they're still finishing up a campaign. I don't know what it is about it, but I like running modules. I like running, 5th edition books. They're really fun, and they're pretty open to interpretation. But I love being in the creative space of, hey, I found this awesome new mini.
Yeah.
Let's find a reason to throw it at my players.
Yeah.
And you can't do that when you're like, running around in Waterdeep.
Well, hey, wait a minute. You totally tricked my group to end up in your homebrew world. Oh, okay. Well, you're like, hey, there's this portal. Don't you want to go through it? And we were like, of course we want to go through the portal. Okay. Well, so that's...
You made your own town.
Yeah.
Now you're invested.
That's right. No, and it's fun. Homebrew's the way to go. If
It's like, I don't know, it's therapeutic.
Yeah.
I really like creative writing. And writing for, creating monsters or creating scenarios or towns or whatnot, populating towns, creating maps. There's a lot of creativity that goes into world building more than just, hey, here's a couple NPCs.
Right.
Here's a big bad guy that you got to go kill. So you can really dig deep and do some awesome creative work.
Cool.
It's been really fun. How you doing, John?
I'm doing well. We're at the end here of Zine Month and of Zemo, and I went a little crazy, as I think probably a lot of people out there did. Especially the first week, there was so many amazing things, and I was like, I gotta back this, I gotta back this, I gotta back this. And at the end of the first week, I went back into my Kickstarter account and I said, you know what, I can't afford everything that I've just backed. So I'm sorry out there, everybody. I actually did need to dial it back and start budgeting.
Sure.
I know I'm not the only person out there that experienced that. That was so many amazing things being created that I actually needed to budget.
That's an interesting problem.
Yeah.
And especially with like the Kickstarter sort of like business model.
Right.
Where you don't pay for it until it's over.
Right.
So you're like, oh, I've got all this free money I can work with.
And that's dangerous. Like the bills are coming due in, beginning of March, in some cases, or the end of February here. So I definitely went overboard at first. I dialed it back a little bit. I still was focused on Mothership stuff and Old School Essentials and Merkborg things. And actually the deciding factor for me at the end of the day on whether I was going to continue to back something or not was whether it was print on demand.
Oh, sure.
And so I tended not to back things that were print on demand. I understand why that's a good thing for the community, especially if you are international.
Sure.
But for me, the extra goodies and bells and whistles tend to be with the people that are going to be sending you a physical thing.
Sure.
And if it's going to be print on demand, it's going to be available in the future, and I'll be able to get the exact same thing. So that was the hard choice that I made. And again, I understand why people do print on demand. I think it's a good thing, especially, the shipping overseas, forget about it right now.
No thanks.
But for me, it didn't make any sense. And so that was where I cut the corners, where I trimmed back. I was like, if you print on demand, sorry. Like,
sure. That's a good, sort of cutoff point.
Yeah.
So the Kickstarter for Tomo Beast 3 is just wrapping up, and I think it was at 500,000 or six. It might have been a little bit higher than that. They hit a lot of goals.
Yeah.
And one of the goals was to add a special edition cover to the layer book.
Oh, I saw
comes
that.
with it.
Yeah. It's red, right?
It looks awesome. But I told myself, like, I already got the special edition for the regular one, and the layer book is going to be, I believe it's print on demand after, or at least will be available in stores afterwards with everything else.
Sure.
So that I said I'd pass on because I spent too much on Kickstarter already. So
yeah,
that was my sort of real back of the month.
Well, there you go. I mean, so we're both having to make hard choices with all the great stuff that's
great
out.
Though. It's like you said, it's a really good for the community, really good to help get info out there and get things rolling sooner.
Well, and I think the introduction of Zemo to make up for the loss of Zine Quest, it worked. It was really good. It really helped. And so I don't see any reason why Zine Month shouldn't continue, why Zemo shouldn't keep moving forward. It was successful as far as I can tell.
Zine Quest is moving to August, you said.
The actual Kickstarter
summer?
Zine Quest, I think, is gonna be in August. So they're going to try to do another Zine Month.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's going to go.
Should be interesting.
We'll find out. It's right. That's Gen Con season.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, maybe that might be one of the reasons why they moved it. I don't know.
Keep the hype going all year.
Yeah.
Okay, it's time for a morale check. So our morale checks are news of the week, news of the tabletop RPG world, discussions going on. I'm a little late to the punches with this one, but Tal'Dorei Reborn was a new 5th edition book that came out for the Critical Role series back in January. I don't know how I missed this. Went under the radar, probably because it's not Wizards of the Coast. It's been put out by Darrington Press, who has done some pretty good work before. But it's like a world book for Critical Role and their stuff. And it comes with a lot of Critical Role things, like there's like 9 subclasses, there's some backgrounds in cities and NPCs sort of explored, like you would imagine a typical world book would be. It's just not Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah. Perfect if you're enjoying the cartoon.
Yeah. Just basically right on time with the Vox Machina cartoon that started on Amazon Prime. I imagine that some of the cities in there are in the book because that was the first campaign.
Sure.
And some of the stuff from the second campaign was in, I believe it was in Wildmount, which was the 5th edition world book for Critical Role. So it's definitely a good pickup. I'm looking forward to picking it up. It's just I've not been able to find it at like Barnes & Noble or any local comic shops, so I think it's like online only. Yeah,
it seems to be online only through a couple distributors and mostly through looks like the Critical Role website.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
So it's and it's a Darlington Press or something like that.
Yeah.
Some kind of imprint or something. So it's hard to find. All right. In other news, Dungeon Crawl Classics is in the middle of its Kickstarter for its 100th module.
That is a crazy milestone.
And it's actually, I mean, they've had way more. They have like 0.5 modules, so it's like way over 100 modules that they've done. But this is the official number 100, right? And it's called The Music of the Spheres is Chaos. It's going to be a box set. And what is making it special is there's a spinning wheel dungeon. So there's going to be a spinning wheel dungeon that already is, has the printing on it of the specific dungeon for this module. Okay. But one of the stretch goals was a second blank spinning wheel dungeon that's just going to have grids on it, so that you can design your own. You can design your own spinning wheel dungeon, and they're actually. Through their third-party encouragement of people making modules and things, third-party writers, they're going to be encouraging people to make their own modules and sell them that use the blank spinning wheel.
Interesting. For those who may not be aware of a spinning wheel dungeon, would you mind going into that?
Oh yeah, it's just going to be a dungeon that's going to have like a tourney center, and the rooms are going to move. And so I haven't really seen it yet. There's a picture of it on the Kickstarter, but I don't know exactly how it's going to work or what it's going to do.
Color wheel kind of.
Kind of like a color wheel. They've done some spinny wheel stuff before as like a character handout. I'm trying to remember for the I'm blanking on what it was called. The chain coffin had like a spinning wheel, but it was a puzzle that you had to solve. So this is going to be an actual map that's going to like rotate and change and stuff.
Keeps things random.
Yeah, keeps things random, keeps things interesting. They're also including on the Kickstarter, you can also add on their first time fan kit, which is a fantastic deal for like $30. You get the rule book, the dice screen, and a module. Nice. It's like $80 worth of Goodman Games product.
All in one bundle.
All in one bundle for $30. So if you're backing the 100th module, the music of the spheres is chaos, you might as well add that first time fan kit as well, and get all the stuff you need to play Dungeon Crawl Classics.
In non-D&D related news, the Witcher tabletop RPG, which I feel like doesn't get enough credit. Like there's some 5th edition Witcher stuff on DM's Guild that I've not delved into really. Seems okay. I know people have wanted to play Witchers in their D&D campaigns.
Yeah.
But this is its own tabletop put out by our Talsorian. They announced this year that they're going to be doing sort of like DLC packs for the game every month. They've been doing that with Cyberpunk Red. Instead of putting out like a new module or a new book every couple of months, they've been dropping like little stories or little sort of one-shots, adding to the game a little bit, adding weapons and whatnot every month-ish. And they said that they're going to be doing that with The Witcher. So,
like PDF drops?
Yeah, PDF. Most of the time they are free from their website. They always announce it on social media whenever it happens.
Cool.
But them adding that to The Witcher, I think will give that legs, and hopefully get that in front of more people.
That sounds kind of like their own Unearthed Arcana sort of thing, right?
Very similar.
Cool. That's a good way to keep the game out there, and you've always got something you can kind of let people know, hey, we've got a new PDF, and
it keeps them coming back.
Right.
And like especially with the new Witcher season 2 just having came out only like 2 months ago, people are still kind of in the Witcher mood, and as we get into the warmer seasons, the Ren Fair seasons, there's definitely going to be some Witchers out there. So getting more people onto this game, I think, would be really nice.
Yeah. Well, and finally, the Necrotic Gnome Classic and Advanced Kickstarter for Old School Essentials has finally dropped.
Nice.
And so if you were fortunate enough on day one, which was February 23rd, if you were fortunate enough to back it on that day, the early bird special was a free T-shirt and issue 2 of Carcass Crawler on top of whatever it is you backed. And the early bird, at least anyway, did have a little bit of a discount too, which was pretty nice. So it's been out of print for a while, the box set for the classic fantasy, but this is the first time that there's going to be a box for the advanced fantasy, and so both of them are getting reprinted. It's pretty exciting. It's got new artwork for the box and for the covers. Necrotic Gnome is and Gavin Norman, the founder, the creator of Old School Essentials. I can't tell if they are brilliant at a hype machine or if it's all just sort of accidental, because they kind of get that sort of that idea that like scarcity breeds some hype, right, and some excitement. And so the fact that their stuff's been out of print, I mean, this is literally just a reprint Kickstarter, but it's getting the excitement of like a new edition and a new book, and it's because it's been so hard to get.
It's been so long and so hard for people to get, and people like you hyping it up all the time, so people are getting excited.
Yeah. So let us know what you think. Are you excited about the Necrotic Gnome Kickstarter? Are you going to back it? Is Necrotic Gnome brilliant at creating hype via artificial scarcity, or is this all just a happy accident and a byproduct of the pandemic with limits on printing and shipping paper, and stuff like that? Let us know what you think. I know some people have expressed frustration with Necrotic Gnome and Old School Essentials not being able to get it, and think that this is kind of diabolical.
Sure. Like sort of grab.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would hope not.
Yeah. For me, I'm excited. Like, and I this is their third Kickstarter for Old School Essentials, and I've backed all of them.
Nice,
so,
nice.
So I'm looking forward to the new box sets. So let us know what you think. Reach out and send us a note at everyeditionrpg@gmail.com. You can find links to all of our socials at everyeditionrpg.com. We've got links to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Patreon. And there's also a link button for that Gmail account that you can fire one off from your phone. The website, everyeditionrpg.com, is optimized for your phone, so it just has buttons. It should be easy to navigate to all of our socials. And we try to post something every day and something different across all of our platforms, including Instagram. So check it out. I've been doing a series on Instagram of Bookstagram, which I just learned about, which is like people posing their books and stuff.
It looks good.
Yeah, well, thanks. So I've been posing the different players' handbooks from every edition of Dungeons and Dragons. So I'm about to post. I'm on 4th edition, so I'm gonna post that one pretty soon.
Put that one in like black and white.
Yeah. No, and then when I get done with all the players' handbooks, I'm going to go back and do all the Dungeon Masters guides, and then I'll go back and do all the monster manuals too. So interact with us, please. Like and subscribe our videos on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter and join us on Facebook and Instagram. And we hope to hear from you.
It's time for a random encounter. For today's random encounter, we are going to be dissecting and sort of ranking, not quite ranking, 4 different sci-fi starter sets in case you, like us, have been wanting to play more sci-fi games on the tabletop.
Yeah, so this is a very natural outgrowth of our exploration here of tabletop role-playing games. We realized, back at the beginning of the year that we haven't played that many sci-fi games.
Yeah,
and so we thought, well, what the heck? There's so many good games right now that give you an entry point. Let's do an honest exploration of the starter sets that are out there for 4 of the most popular sci-fi games, and compare them. See which ones are good.
Take a look at what comes in them.
Yeah.
Give you our honest thoughts. I know a couple of them we've played, a couple of them we haven't delved into yet. But I think all across the board, they're all great. But it's just which one we play first.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's start things off with a primer of each game and company that's behind the publishing of each game. So Starfinder. Starfinder's been out for a while now. It came out in 2017. It's put out by Paizo. Paizo's based in Redmond, Washington. It's actually a Greek word. Which it's based on a Greek word meaning to play. I always wondered where the name came from. So they started publishing in 2002. They started publishing Dragon Magazine and Dungeon Magazine for Wizards of the Coast after they purchased TSR in 1997. And so Paizo were the publishers of Dragon Magazine and Dungeon Magazine up until 2007, when Wizards of the Coast announced that it wouldn't renew its license with Paizo, and they were going to be phasing out the magazines in favor of online content. So in 2008, Paizo announced that they were going to be moving forward with their own game based on 3rd edition called Pathfinder. And it really, in some circles, it's considered like 3.75, like a continuation of 3.5, but again, with an opportunity to tweak and fix some things and move the game forward. They also were publishing adventure paths, right? And so that was something that they started in Dungeon Magazine, and each issue would have one part of an adventure path, and you would collect 6 issues of Dungeon to have the adventure path. Well, they continued that publishing model into their own game. And then, like I said, in 2017, they came out with Starfinder, which is effectively the future of the Pathfinder world and same universe and a science fiction version of the game.
It's very similar to Pathfinder in terms of like mechanics, and like inner workings and math. It does kind of seem like Pathfinder 1.5.
Okay.
At least from what reading I've done, it does seem like things have been updated, since the original release of 1st edition before 2nd edition came out. They definitely tried out some things and fixed up some pain points, it seems like.
Yeah, well, it makes sense that they would just like they took the opportunity to, when they first published Pathfinder, to tweak the game, that with publishing a new game, they have the opportunity again to kind of tweak things.
Yeah.
And they, obviously right now, Pathfinder Second Edition is already out, and it's very different than First Edition Pathfinder. And so it's not, so yeah, they kind of have two games, like very different. Whereas before, when Starfinder first came out, they were somewhat compatible, and but now they sort of have two very different games. But Starfinder seems to be doing well and continuing. They just saw a new Magic book released just this year, in 2022. So it's still alive and well.
Yeah, so here's a primer on Free League, who published the Alien tabletop RPG game. They are based in Sweden, which I had no idea until looking into this, because we've had stuff shipped from them, and you can buy from their website.
Oh, yeah.
And I wasn't sure if it was, local based or overseas shipping.
Sure.
Turns out they're in Sweden.
Yeah.
That's great. They've made a ton of games that I had no idea existed, but I'm very glad I do now.
Yeah.
Including Morkborg and Alien.
Yep.
Alien's like their flagship IP that's not theirs.
Right.
But they also have this Nordic horror game, which I'm gonna butcher the name of it, but it's Vaesen, maybe.
Cool.
Which sounds like the little primer on that was just like Nordic horror. And I was like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
And then there's also, this Morkborg, which we've talked about a ton. We're going to delve into more at some point.
Oh, yeah.
And there's also a couple of 80s and 90s themed games. There's Tales from the Loop, which is their 80s themed game, as well as Things from the Flood, which is the 90s themed one, which I'm not too sure about. We're going to get a little bit into Tales from the Loop. I'll have to look into the Tales from the Flood.
Yeah, I think one of the differences between those two games is Tales from the Loop is about kids.
Okay.
And game mechanic wise, you can't die. But in Things from the Flood, you're a teenager and it could be lethal.
Okay.
So that's the big difference between those two. But they use the same system, same rules. It's just
so most of, or if not all of the Free League games, including the Blade Runner one that's going to come out soon, all use their like sort of flagship dice system, which is just D6s.
The Year Zero engine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is great in case you're wanting to try other games. If you have a group of friends that loves to play different types of games, but you hate that sort of phase of spending an hour trying to learn whatever game it is and then teach it to everybody in the group. If you know one system, you know them all.
Yeah.
And, if we start with Alien, which could be one of the more difficult ones to get a sort of grasp on, because there's a lot going on with the regular dice and the stress dice and whatnot.
Yeah.
Going back to their other games will be a walk in the park because you all already know the systems.
Cool. Yeah, so here's a primer on the Star Trek role-playing game and their starter kit. The Star Trek role-playing game currently is put out by Modiphius, which is a London-based company founded in 2012. It first published Achtung Cthulhu, which is their IP, and shortly after that they came out with Mutant Chronicles in 2013. They have licenses right now for the Fallout role-playing game, for the Conan role-playing game, for the John Carter role-playing game, and for the Dune role-playing game. This is not the first time that Star Trek, though, has been a role-playing game. There have been lots of Star Trek role-playing games. In the 80s, FASA was the gaming company that put out Shadowrun. And Earth Dawn and BattleTech.
Sure.
They were the first ones to put out, I believe, the first ones to put out a Star Trek role-playing game in the 80s. Then there was Prime Directive in the 90s, which was another Star Trek-based role-playing game. And Modiphius has the most, I think, at this point, right, the most comprehensive, because they're doing it currently, and so they've got a book that's essentially dedicated to, Next Generation, to the original cast, to Deep Space Nine, and to Voyager, and then they've got other supplements to kind of fill in the cracks for the other sort of more ancillary titles and even some of the new stuff. So there are PDFs that are specific to each show that are available on their website. And all the other Star Trek games, because they're older, they are going to be missing, sort of the newest stuff like Picard and
some new lore.
Yeah, some of the new lore and stuff like that. So this is the most up to date version of the game, and it uses their 2D20 system, which is the same system that's used by all those other IPs I mentioned, like Conan, John Carter, Fallout, and Dune. Yeah, so it keeps things in line, and if you like one, it's a pretty easy switch to like the others. Very similar, right, in terms thinking about it like Free League's games, how they have that same core dice system, the Year Zero dice engine that powers all their games. Modiphius has their 2D20 system, which essentially powers all of their games too.
Yeah, so here's a primer on Cyberpunk Red, put out by Talsorian. They've put out a couple of different games. They're not a very large or very widespread company. They are US based, and they've done the two main are The Witcher tabletop RPG and Cyberpunk through all its different variations. But they've also done stuff for Castle Frankenstein, which seemed like way out of left field. I had no idea, but that was one of their earlier ones. And a game called Mechton. Another early game for them. Teenagers from Outer Space, another potential sci-fi, maybe 80s, 90s type game that they've done as well. They've got some interesting things in their track record, and they've been doing Cyberpunk. I think Cyberpunk 2013 came out in the early 80s. Yeah. So they've been publishing games for a long time.
Well, and Cyberpunk is theirs, right? Like
it is their IP, and that uses the D10 system. They're sort of like exploding D10s, but they use other dice. They're not like Free League or Modiphius, where they have just sort of one set of dice for all of their games. It's very game specific. But if you play Cyberpunk 2020 or Cyberpunk Red, you use the same dice across those. So,
as curious as I am about Cyberpunk, I'm having The Witcher right now. I mean, wow, that's got to be doing something.
Yeah, I imagine they seem to be expanding their Witcher stuff. If they're going into this year saying that, hey, every month we're going to give a free PDF of new information, new lore, more magic systems. It seems like they're doubling down. Yeah. Like they're using the sort of hype train off of the first and second season of The Witcher, the success of the games and the books, to really sort of pilot this tabletop game that's been out for maybe about a year or two into success.
All right, so let's talk about physical content in these box sets. I'll start with Starfinder. So the Starfinder beginner box is $40. You can find it for a little bit of a discount if you're hunting around online. But in that box, you get 24 pawn stands. You get 7 black dice. There was a Munchkin promo card in there. There was also a single page that has one of those, like, before you go any further, right? Kind of instructions for how to approach the elements contained in the box set. There was cards for player aids. There were character sheets. There's a hero book, which is sort of the meat of the box set. There was also 6 pre-generated characters, a game master guide, which is the other big meaty piece of this box set, a flip map, which was just a regular old flip map on one side that you could use for any role-playing game with a blank grid. The other side has definitely support for the particular adventure that's included in the game, but the other side is blank for you to do whatever with. So that's, in terms of thinking about the value, that's good value. There's also 3 pages worth of pawns for a total of over 80 pawns to go with those 24 pawn stands. And then there was an ad for Starfinder Society and books. So that's all the stuff that's in it. When I opened this thing up, it was jam-packed with stuff. Like, I couldn't believe how much stuff you got for $30-$40. I really, just right off the bat, was thinking, what a value.
Starting you off right.
What a great place to start. And the things in it are things that if you continue with the game, you're going to continue to use. Sure. Like the pawns, like the stands, like the map.
Like the map, yeah.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. So in terms of content and value, I thought the Starfinder beginner box, really good.
And any beginner set that comes with dice automatically above all the others.
That's a good thing. That's a
love
good
dice.
thing. Yeah, I do too. Those math rocks. I need them. I need them.
So talking about physical content that comes in these starter sets, I'll talk about the Alien starter set.
Great.
And this thing, I say, much like the Starfinder one and the Cyberpunk one, is absolutely filled to the brim with stuff. But some of it you may not need after you're done with the starter set. Kind of just depends on how you play the game.
Okay.
So it does come with a flip mat, and it's like a very, very high quality card stock or paper stock. On one side, it just has like a star chart of all of the known alien universe stars and planets and whatnot. You can even see where like Earth is and like where you are in the mini adventure. And on the other side, it's a big sort of blueprint map of the ship that you walk around in the adventure that comes with it.
Cool.
It comes with a couple decks of cards, which I thought was very weird at first, but diving into it kind of makes sense. Instead of like rolling for initiative in like a Dungeons and Dragons type game, you actually just sort of pick a card, any card from a initiative deck that shows your order in like combat or whatnot. There's also weapons and NPCs that are cards, as well as the sort of my sort of favorite card, the personal agendas.
Ooh.
Which is, the sort of like Secret Hitler type game where you've got your own thing going on.
Yeah.
Those are pretty sweet. My favorite part about the starter set is that it comes with 2 different sets of dice.
Let's go.
One, you kind of need both sets. You kind of don't, but it comes with 2. And like, we'll talk about pricing a little bit, but each of the packs of dice, it comes with 10 dice in one pack, so it comes with 20 total.
Yes.
Which is like an insane amount of dice.
Yes.
They're all D6s. One is like the black sort of precision dice.
Okay.
And the other's yellow stress dice. Those have like face huggers on the ones.
Ooh.
We've talked about it a little bit before in our review, but the dice sets themselves are like $20 each.
Yeah.
So it comes with 2 of those. So already you're at $40.
Yep.
And the starter set itself costs about like between 40 and 50. So even if you just buy the starter set, it's worth it for the dice.
Absolutely.
It's a really, really good deal, money wise, I think, if you care about dice that much.
Yeah, if you're going to play Alien and you want the dice, get the starter set, because then you get the quick start rules.
Exactly. So
right?
it also comes with the cinematic story. So in Alien, there's the difference of one-shots and campaigns is campaign and cinematic. So it comes with a one-shot, typical to most starter sets. And it comes with a rule book that is basically the core rule book minus the adventure and minus any character creation.
Right.
There's no character creation in that rule book. It also comes with a bunch of pre-generated characters. And in the actual rule book, it has some NPCs that they say, like, hey, if your characters die, just give them an NPC and have them keep playing.
Sure.
So I think overall, it just filled to the brim. It was an awesome starter set to just open. It does also come with some like pawn tokens. They don't have stands or anything like that. But there's like ones that have xenomorphs on them and ones that have people and like radar pings. They're definitely flavor tokens that are really sweet, and the quality on everything is just phenomenal.
All right, so talking about the physical content in the Star Trek starter set for the Star Trek role-playing game, the Star Trek starter set retails for about $28. So it's the least expensive of all of the sets that we're going to be looking at. But it also comes with the least amount of stuff. So you get what you pay for.
Unfortunate,
in some cases, right? So it does come with dice. It comes with 4d6 and 2d20. Unfortunately, the 2d20 are generic 2d20. They don't have any of the Star Trek insignias. If you want those, you have to buy the special Star Trek dice. That kind of felt, that didn't feel good. The tokens, it comes with 3 small sheets of cardboard tokens. It comes with 2 maps. It comes with 5 pre-generated characters and 1 pre-generated ship.
Okay.
It comes with the starter rules, which are 24 pages, and it comes with your starter campaign, which is called Star Beyond the Stars. That's the name of the adventure. Okay?
Great.
The one thing I want to note, and I've done a side-by-side comparison here, is that the starter rules that come with the Star Trek box set are basically the same as the free quick start rules that were put out for Free RPG Day 2021. I gobbled up a couple of those, knowing that I wanted to try this game, and I'm really glad I did because, instead of saying to people like, "Hey, maybe we should get a couple box sets so we have the quick start rules," I can pass those out. So here's the kicker, though: if you got the Star Trek quick start rules, you don't really need this box set.
Yeah,
like that's the truth. Like the meat of it, you've already gotten for free. So effectively, for your $28. And you can find it a little bit cheaper, if you're hunting around.
Sure.
But for your $28, you're getting an adventure. So I would think about this Star Trek game, this Star Trek starter set, is effectively you're buying a module.
Okay.
That comes in a box. Like I said, especially if you already got the quick start rules for free, you got the meat. You got the meat of the thing already. So $28 for an adventure, and for quick start rules, there it is. Nothing flashy here. And that's not to say, though, like the quality of the stuff in it is great, but I didn't feel like they were overwhelming me, especially, like when you open up the Cyberpunk one, or you open up the Starfinder box set, or you open up the Alien box set. Like there's just so much good stuff. And especially in the Alien and the Cyberpunk, the dice.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not so much of a wow factor.
Yeah, and this was actually a wah, wah, wah factor when it came to the dice. Because I was like, wait a minute. I've seen 20-sided dice that have the Star Trek symbol on it.
Sure.
This is just so it was a little disappointing. And that like I said before, that didn't feel good. So I think you get what you pay for. This is a cheaper starter set. It's cheaper in terms of what it has in it.
All right, so let's talk about the physical things that come with the Cyberpunk Red Jumpstart kit.
Yes, please.
So right off the bat, as soon as you open it up, sweet dice.
Oh.
There's like black and red dice that are, typical for Cyberpunk, where you need D6s and D10s.
Yeah.
They're made by Q Workshop.
Yep.
It's not a full set that you would get if you would buy a Q Workshop set of Cyberpunk dice, but it's like, it's a starter set. It gets you going. That's really all you need. And you can use, regular dice as well, but these ones are like branded for Cyberpunk. They have the same font.
Gorgeous.
They look like Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
It comes with a rule book. It does come with character creation in the rule book. They spend a good portion of the rule book in character creation. That also, has combat and things like that in it. There is a world book, as this was the first thing to come out for Cyberpunk Red, in between Cyberpunk 2020 and Cyberpunk Red. This came out before the actual rule book, so they included a sort of like catch up. Hey, where's the world been in the last 20 years, because it takes place in 2040? Where are all these people that I knew, the NPCs, how the world's doing, that kind of thing, as well as the main like starter kit adventure. There's also maps for Cyberpunk Red, and something that I've noticed with Cyberpunk sort of settings in general is that all of the maps are sort of game agnostic.
Okay.
They're just a room or a street or something like that could be used in any situation. They just happen to fit the situation that is in the starter kit. So you can take those and use those wherever you want, and they're double-sided, so they've got a bunch of different scenarios going on.
Great.
There is pre-generated characters, so you don't have to do the pain of creating characters with a first-time group. There is pre-generated characters you can use, and there's a couple pawns and a couple stands for your characters and some vehicles to sort of populate your map and sort of bring it to life.
This one, because of the world book, it seems like it has the most lore.
Yes.
Of like all of the starter kits, and there is so much backstory for Cyberpunk that it's needed.
It's fleshed out.
Yeah.
You definitely need to catch up, especially if you've never played the game before, or if you're coming from Cyberpunk 2077, the video game. You need a little bit of primer on where the world is, because this takes place before the video game. It's definitely needed, and a good touch that's even just a good read.
Yes, yeah, that's right. It is. It's a great read, and it's for somebody who's never played Cyberpunk before or never had any exposure to it, it gets you off the ground and it gives you all the background you need. And it's actually just the world book is such a useful, I think, thing if you're going to be playing this game or interested in this world.
Yeah, I'd say even if you wanted to pick up the starter kit for the catch-up book and use that, if you're still playing Cyberpunk 2020 or 2013, you could use that as sort of like a, hey, here's where things can go in your games, because I know there's people who, they still just want to play 2020.
Sure. All right, so let's talk about how far each of these starter kits will take you in terms of your adventuring and your experience of each of these games. So with Starfinder, you've got the Hero Handbook, which has a solo adventure in it. So you can play a solo adventure that kind of introduces you to the world. And it's also got then the main adventure, which is called Steel Talon's Lair. And that's included in the Game Master Guide. It does include character creation, which is something that not all of these starter sets include.
Yeah.
And so it includes character creation. It's got 6 races. It's missing 1 race from the core book, from the core Starfinder book. It includes 6 themes. It's missing 4 themes from the core book. And it includes 6 classes, but they only go up to 4th level.
Sure.
Okay, so that's how far this will take you. You could play the Starfinder adventure that's included, Steel Talon's Lair, and get your character, a couple levels. You could probably make your own adventure and get up to 4th level, and then at that point you would need the core book in order to move forward. The character creation rules here are streamlined. Like I said, they leave out some options, and they don't have all the rules and everything.
Trimmed.
It's trimmed. It's streamlined a little bit. But it's really like the fact that it has character creation and pre-generated characters. So literally you can decide, right, are we going to go with use these pre-gens and start quicker, or do we want to take the time to create a character? Love that. I love that. And so again, I feel like you get a lot of bang for your buck with this Starfinder kit and the ability to create characters up to 4th level, or the ability to use pre-gens. Awesome.
Yeah, I think you could use the character creation from this and pick up an adventure path, like the first of 6 or 4, however many, the first part of an adventure path, and just use that.
Yep,
as like a quick start.
Well, and I do think they do a nice job of, like, if you liked it, then you're gonna want to get the core book.
Yeah.
Right. Like they've set it up well that, like, you can take this a little bit further. But not that much, and you're gonna want the core book. So you decide again, like they are smart, right? They're saying you're gonna decide you want the core book, right? Rather than them forcing you to need the core book, which is really, that's the way to go. And
good marketing.
Yeah, really good.
So talking about how far these starter sets can go, the Alien starter set can't really take you very far. So you've got the cinematic one-shot that comes with it. That somewhat leads into the adventure that comes with the core game rulebook. There is an adventure in there that stems from this, or can stem from this if you choose.
Okay.
But the rules that come in the starter set don't include any amount of character creation, not even in the slightest. So you could take the pre-generated characters and put them wherever you want, but you're going to need the core rulebook to know how to make your own, or take it, a step further.
Okay. Well, so that is a limitation when comparing it to the other ones. If it doesn't, the Alien RPG starter set does not include character creation. Man, it still includes those sweet dice, though.
Yeah, so the dice are really sweet. Those can obviously take you through the whole thing.
Yeah.
But the initiative cards, you can use those. The NPC ones, maybe not, unless you decide to use those NPCs again somewhere. The weapon cards are really good. The personal agendas, again, probably not going to get you very far unless you use them as a base to create your own personal agendas. This rule book also has no amount of world building or any sort of way to make your own mini campaign or cinematic mode. Yeah, so
not a lot of lore.
There's not a lot of lore unless you are a movie buff, but that's not it's not in the core rule book. Yeah. So it can take you a little bit, but you're going to need the core rule book if you want to go anywhere outside of the starter kit.
And so it literally will get you started.
Yeah.
But then you'll fall off a cliff pretty quickly, and you got to buy something else if you want to keep going.
You got to keep buying stuff.
Okay. Good to know. All right, so how far can you go with the Star Trek starter set? Well, similar to some of the other sets we've talked about, this set does not include character creation. So it is just the pre-generated characters that come with the set. So there's no character creation. Character creation in the Star Trek role-playing game is called a life path. And there's 7 different steps that you go through to go through this life path. Character creation actually doesn't start in the core rulebook until page 100, which I think is a miss. Like, you have to be like, I'm like, I want to make a Star Trek character, and I'm still not ready to make one. And then, triple digits before you get the character creation. Because again, but they've got a lot of lore in the core book that they're catching you up on. If but like, everybody that's playing the Star Trek game knows the lore.
Yeah.
So give me the
You've watched Star Trek.
Put the character creation in the front. But that's when we review the core book. If we ever review the core book, that'll be a criticism for another time. But anyway, no character creation with this starter set. Like I said before, basically you would buy this if you want the adventure. And it's a 3-part adventure, and each part of the adventure has 3 acts within it.
Okay.
So that's the way it's broken down. It's like a 9-part adventure.
Pretty involved.
But that's it, right? You get the quick start rules, you get this 9-part adventure, and you get some disappointing dice. The D6, I mean, I should go back to kind of talk a little bit about the dice. The D6 do have the Federation logo on them.
It's just not the D20.
It's the D20. Like, come on. It's like it's a generic brown, sad looking D20. Like, I just, it's as much as I love the dice in the Cyberpunk set and the Alien RPG set, is how much I'm like disappointed in the dice for the thing. And I don't know, the more we talk about these starter sets, it does kind of seem like it's all about the dice.
Maybe, it's definitely a driving factor. So again, disappointing dice. But how far can you go with this? Again, similar to some of the other sets we've talked about, you're going to fall off a cliff pretty quickly. You're going to have one really solid adventure, and that's it. And so you're going to have to buy another adventure or the core book. You can't really go much further. So how far can you go with the Cyberpunk Jumpstart set? Honestly, you don't need the core rulebook to play this game.
Oh, okay.
Wow. The way that Cyberpunk is set up as a game, there's not really room for campaigns that last, months and months and months. It's designed to be a game that's filled with one-shots or like mini adventures where you take your character a couple levels and then roll up a new one because this one died or whatnot. So this starter set, really sets you up for that. There's a good trimmed version of the character creation that goes step by step through whatever class you want to make, including random charts in case you just want to roll them up quick. It has a mini adventure of its own, but you can use that as like a sort of guideline on how to make your own if you're crafty with that kind of thing. But it definitely sets the tone for like, your characters are a bunch of mercenaries no matter what campaign or adventure you're doing. So as long as you create a good adventure hook and a good maybe boss or a target that somebody has to go grab or a hostage situation or whatnot, something to like heighten the tension. As long as you make something, you can find an NPC that's in the book and have them give the quest to everybody. It's a very, very easy system to make your own adventures with. So you can go really far with this Jumpstart kit.
Wow. Okay. So the contents of this kit, you can create your own character and you can create your own adventures.
Basically.
Wow. Okay.
And because it gives you so much lore about what's going on in the world and Night City in general.
Yeah.
Even if you just use Wikipedia or Google a little bit to fill in the gaps, you can use the dice in there and you're good to go.
All right. So let's get into some final thoughts then about these different sci-fi starter sets. I'll start with Starfinder. So my final thoughts on Starfinder: high value and some longevity, some ability to do some character creation and get a couple levels in before you're going to need an additional book. Like I said before, characters, you can take your character up to 4th level. It does include an alien bestiary, a little small alien bestiary in the GM thing. So then it is possible to create your own adventures. There's a Game Master tip section. And you've got that solo adventure to give you a taste, and you got one module, and then enough stuff with the GM tips and the bestiary to be able to create your own. So I would say this is a very high value. And my take on this is, if you enjoy playing the starter set, they do a nice job of setting you up to want the core book, right? Rather than making you have to buy the core book, which I think is a smart way to go. I think you want to give, in these starter sets, you want to give people the opportunity to go a little bit further than just one adventure, because you're wetting the whistle, but you also, like, you don't want to fall off that steep cliff. That doesn't.
So many of the others.
Yeah, like so many of the others do. And so I think this Starfinder beginner box is excellent. I think it's got great stuff in it. I think it's priced right. I think it's definitely worth checking out if you're interested in playing Starfinder.
Final thoughts on the Alien starter set and sort of value evaluation. Honestly, if you're thinking about Alien, or if you like the Alien properties at all, and you have a group of friends willing to play games with you, this is an absolute no-brainer.
Cool.
For the value, you get all of the dice and a very, very fun and repeatable mini campaign, mini adventure. I know I've run this one once. I'm about to run it again. We're going to sort of get through the rest of it. And I've tried to convince a couple of my other groups to play it as well. And they seem very into the sort of atmospheric stuff that you can get into. Because it only uses D6s, you can sort of forget math. And you can focus on like sort of imagination and whatnot. So it has staying power, even as like a GM, because every time you run it, it's going to be different. I think just overall, for the price point, for everything that you get with it, and the quality of what you get, it's really worth it. I think I wish that there was even just a taste of character creation in this. Like, yeah, they did such a good job on everything else. It makes me want to go out and buy the core rulebook right away and their actual campaign. But I just wish there was a little bit of character creation, so that if I had more characters than just the pre-generated that they have in the starter kit, that I could make one so somebody doesn't have to play like a duplicate.
So it does fall off the cliff a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe not like a steep cliff, but like a steep hill.
Okay. Value in the dice, though.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's 20 dice, and the yellow ones have a face hugger on it. Like, this is really cool.
Yep. All right, so final thoughts on the Star Trek role-playing game starter set put out by Modiphius. Like I said before, you get quick start rules, which it's the same quick start rules you get from Free Role-Playing Game Day 2021. It comes with pre-gens. It's got an adventure at its core, right? So you're paying for this 3-act module that it comes with, but that's really how I want you to think about this. It's buying an adventure. It's buying a module. There's no character creation. There's no continuing adventures. There's not a whole lot of lore, even though I know there's plenty of lore.
Yeah, there's plenty to pick from.
Plenty to talk about. But it really is, you're buying an adventure. That's why its price point is so cheap.
Sure.
Math rocks. I mean, I've said it now too many times, but man, Modiphius, please, he blew it on the dice for the Star Trek thing.
They could have added like $5 or $10 to it and added some really premium dice.
Yeah, and I do feel like they know that the Star Trek fans are just going to go buy the dice, and so they kept them separate. Yeah. And you got crappy dice.
Got
with the which no, I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna, like, that soured me on the game a little bit, and I'm not gonna go get
That's fair.
Dice. So it's the cheapest of all the starter sets, and it's the cheapest of all the starter sets. Part of me wonders why they even made a starter set for a Star Trek role-playing game, because, I mean, truth be told, you know if you want to play this game or not.
That's
right.
Fair.
It's not. You're not going to be introducing somebody to Star Trek through this.
Yeah. Like there's movies and TV.
So you know if you want to play this game, and I think Modiphius kind of half did it, right? Like they knew that the people that are interested in Star Trek are just going to buy everything, and everything has a starter set today. So, okay, fine, we're going to have a starter set too.
That's fair.
But they also knew everybody's going to buy the core book, so we don't have to include a whole lot. Like it's really, you're not introducing anybody to Star Trek through this, and it's, I don't know, it's disappointing.
Yeah, very disappointing. So final thoughts on the Cyberpunk Red starter kit Jumpstart. I think this is an incredible value. This came out a good while before the core rulebook did for Cyberpunk Red. And I think, like I said in the earlier portion, I don't think you need anything more than this.
Yeah.
If you're just going to play this sort of casually every now and then, because it comes with all the lore and the world catch-up. It comes with character creation. That's as easy as just rolling random dice on tables. It comes with a scenario that gives you a good idea of how fleshed out you should have things. It comes with maps that aren't specific to the scenario that you can use in other places. It gives you a ton to work with and a really solid adventure. It's called The Apartment.
Oh, cool.
It takes place in an apartment building, so you meet a lot of different people and NPCs.
Yeah.
It gives you a sort of idea of what kind of tone you should be having while playing or creating an adventure for Cyberpunk, and it gives you the tools to do it. Unlike a couple of the others where you're given either the tools or the lore, I think this is just like the best of both worlds. You get some dice, you get some pawns. It's an incredible value, and honestly, I think just more people should play Cyberpunk because the lore is really awesome, and I like the world and whatnot.
Yeah.
But this is tried and true, a starter kit. But honestly, if that's all you get, I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, and if you're into math rocks, those Q Workshop dice are gorgeous.
Yeah, they know how to make dice.
nice black and red, perfect in keeping with Cyberpunk. So you get, I think, it's a get your money's worth.
Also, a lot of our Talsorian stuff that they're doing for Cyberpunk Red is free.
Right.
They've been doing these monthly sort of drops on their website that are just PDFs, that are expansions on the rulebook, adding more things that are just free PDFs. So, do you need the core rulebook? No. Is it cool? Yeah. Should you support them? Yes. But as far as the Jumpstart kit, you can just use that and get going.
Excellent.
Let us know what you think. Do you think that we sort of missed the mark? Do we not include a game that you would have wanted to be in this sort of comparison? Did we answer all your questions that you may have had on these starter sets? Let us know. Find our socials over at everyeditionrpg.com and leave us a comment down below or send us an email at everyeditionrpg@gmail.com.
Yeah, and if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, thank you very much. If you're watching on YouTube, hello, good to see you. Thanks for subscribing, and it's great to be cranking out more episodes on a regular basis here with every edition. All right, it's time to loot the body. Today's loot the body, we're going to be taking a look at Mothership, the sci-fi horror sensation. So this is an all sci-fi episode for the most part. So we've looked at starter kits. Mothership's box set isn't out yet. It's been kickstarted, and it'll be coming out later this year. Before I even get into the review of the game, you can stop what you're doing right now. If you go online, you can get the PDF of Mothership for free. It's pay what you want on Drive-Thru RPG. So download it, and you can kind of follow along, and you can start playing Mothership right away. You don't have to wait. It's also available in this original edition zine format from Exalted Funeral for $15, so you can pick it up there. The feel of Mothership is very much like the Alien RPG in that it's a survival, escape kind of feeling. And it is considered by some to be an OSR game, to be an old school Renaissance game because of its feel. It has high lethality, so character death is very possible. You need to be smart. It's also about resource management and being creative with what you have.
Sure.
There's a wonderful player's cheat sheet on the back of this zine that kind of takes you through how combat is laid out. And so you would have this face down at your table while you're playing Mothership, and it's going to be able to walk you through some of the basic mechanics, which is a really smart design choice. I really love that. Character creation. Also, the character sheet for Mothership actually utilizes a flow chart.
Oh.
And so you actually can print out, again, a free copy of the character sheet, and it'll take you through character creation just on the character sheet itself, utilizing this sort of flow chart. So it's got step 1, and you fill in the thing there, and then you move on to step 2, and it branches into different parts and stuff like that. So the layout and design for this game is just so smart. Very much reminiscent for me of sort of the smart layout for old school Essentials. I think there's a reason that in a lot of circles these two games are sort of thought about in the same breath.
Very similar.
Yeah. They've got that cool that cool thing about them for today and for gamers right now. But it really, the layout is just excellent. It's so, step by step, everything in this book is just very clearly laid out. It's a D100 system. You're rolling underneath your stat, so you'll roll 2 D10s to get a number between 1 and 100, and you're trying to roll underneath whatever your stat is. Sure. And there's a skill tree that's how you sort of level up in this game. It's got 4 different saves: your body, your fear, your sanity, and your armor. Those are the 4 different saves. All of the rules are contained. If there's a particular topic for a rule, it's contained on 1 page.
Oh, nice.
Right, so it doesn't bleed over into a second page, and so the rules actually correspond with page numbers throughout in a way that makes it very easy to reference.
Sure.
Very easy to reference at the table. One of the unique things about Mothership is its love of patches. Like a workman's patch, right? So there's a chart in here where when you're going through character creation, you also roll on a random patch that your character has on their work uniform. And this sort of love of weird and obscure patches and the style of like a workman's uniform, this has bled over into third-party support for. So most of like the zine month Mothership things. One of the goodies to entice you to back it is a patch. Sure. Right. And
so you can wear it.
So you can wear it. Exactly. And so collecting patches has become a part of collecting and playing the Mothership game. And that hits all my buttons, right? I mean, in terms of, obsessively collecting things like
tactile.
Oh, now I got to get patches too. Like, yes, please. So it's got that aspect to it too, where it's fun. It is really fun to collect for right now. And it's fun to read, it's fun to collect for, it's fun to play. It has a stress system. Again, I said it's kind of similar to the Alien RPG in that it uses a sort of stress track to kind of ramp up the anxiety and feeling of the game. It has this sort of panic mechanic, right? It is a very, for being just a zine, it's very dense. You get a lot for $15 in this zine, but it is so smartly laid out and so easy to reference. It doesn't feel dense.
Sure.
It feels just well done. So this gets a very high recommendation. And the great thing about it, like I said at the beginning, don't wait. Go right now to
just get it for free.
Just get it for free, and check it out for yourself, and you'll see the smart design. And then you may want to then plunk down some money for the original version for $15, or wait for the first edition, which is going to be updated. It's going to be slightly tweaked, and I'm not sure what the differences are yet, like what things have changed in the game. That's kind of been a little bit mysterious, but it's enough that they have said it is a first edition, an update.
So you're going to want that.
So you're going to want that. And some of the older third-party modules are also reprinting with updates.
Okay. Nice.
So it might be worth waiting. I couldn't wait. Here it is. Mothership.
There's a reason why it made so much money.
Yeah.
It seems very well constructed.
Yep.
And definitely something that, I might get the free PDF and read through it, but I'm going to want it physically at the table.
Yeah.
When we're playing.
Well, and it's just there's a reason people are talking about it right now. It's worth checking out, everybody. Like, so I'm hopeful to be playing Mothership is top of my list of games to play this year, and I'm having fun reading and collecting for it in the meantime.
Well, thanks for watching, everyone. This has been Every Edition, your tabletop RPG talk show. I've been having such a blast creating stuff and behind the scenes. I do a little bit of the editing and whatnot, getting things together, reading through so many different games, especially in preparation for this episode where we're talking about a bunch of different starter sets. And I don't know, just because of this podcast, I've definitely branched out further than just my sort of niche of D&D and D&D sort of adjacent things.
Yeah.
So this has been a very fun, very wild ride, and I appreciate everybody who listens and watches. And if you want to contact us, you can at everyeditionrpg@gmail.com, and you can head over to everyeditionrpg.com to find links to all of our socials, where you can contact us there and see everything that we're doing on all of the different socials. Everything is different on all of the different socials. And even the podcast has some different bells and whistles if you listen to it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
Thanks a lot, everybody.